evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're looking absolutely splendid today, may I just say. Today we're going to be checking out the US B-52 just did something out of the world. It says Iran is no more. That sounds pretty serious. I hope you guys are having a good day so far, whatever it is you're getting up to. Hope you had a good day at work. Hope you're relaxing. Hope you're chilling. Let's see what is going on with these B-52s. By the way, a B-52, I didn't think this is what a B-52 was, man. I was getting this mixed up with the, you know, the big kind of Dorito-looking bomber. A stealth bomber. I think that's what it is. I didn't know this is what a B-52... Alright, well, this is not what I thought it was, but it's fine.
Unleashing its full range of bombers to cripple the country's missile-based strategy.
Okay.
Now, something that the US built in the 1950s is crushing all of the weapons Iran wanted to use in 2026.
Nearly 80 years old.
The B-52 Stratofortress has been unleashed, and it's conducting some of the most devastating strikes that Iran has seen so far. Iran's missiles are no more, and its regime is facing up to a...
And what size is this? This looks absolutely enormous, man. It's got flipping 4 engines on it.
Very simple fact. This is just the beginning.
Oh, shit.
We'll tell you why that is later in the video. First, here's what the US has been doing with its B-52s now that it's established air superiority, and some might even say supremacy, over Iran in the wake of the US and Israel destroying 80% of Iran's air defenses. The week leading up to March 9th has seen the US unleash constant strikes against Iran after its stealth bombers and fighter jets crippled the air defenses that Iran could have used to stop those strikes.
Jesus.
The B-52 has been at the heart of these attacks, as US Central Command has made clear by releasing footage of these old bombers taking off en route to the country.
I forgot to send the intro. Please forgive me. Forgive me. I think 70% of people who watch our channel now, it's went down a little bit, still aren't subbed to the channel. I would absolutely love it if you guys continue to watch our videos. Hit that sub button, make sure the bell's on. It helps videos get through out there to your faces more often. You know what I mean? Thank you.
What we have here is the sledgehammer after the surgical strikes. The US is able to use the oldest bomber that it has in its fleet to fly deep within Iranian territory now that the air defense threat has been practically cancelled out. The B-52 pilots still have to be careful. Isolated air defense systems still remain, though America's bombers are getting a helping hand from several sources that we'll uncover in a moment.
That doesn't even look real.
What the US is now doing is using its B-52s to rain down immense amounts of firepower on Iran. And those bombers have one type of target that they're hitting with abandon.
What is it?
Iran's missile infrastructure.
Yeah.
Max Afterburner explains more, stating that America's F-22 and F-35 stealth airframes have taken out whatever defenses that Iran had.
Okay.
EA-18G Growlers have also helped to create safe aerial corridors inside Iran, which allow the B-52s to fly directly where they need to go to strike targets. Those other airframes are creating a pathway for the B-52 Stratofortress to make its way into Iran and do some big things, as we're seeing, because the B-52 is hammering what's left of the missile network from Iran.
What is left of Iran at this point, man? What can be left? Like, it seems that we've taken out everything. The US military's taken out everything. What is left? What do they got that's, you know, what we saying? Also, what I was going to ask is, what type of bombs does a B-52 carry? Like, is this the one you put the big boys onto? Is this the vehicle that carries the big boy bombs? What we saying? What type of bombs does this thing carry, man?
Hammering the production facilities as well, Afterburner says. The Warzone, or TWZ, expands on what America's B-52s have been doing, noting that the first of these bombers that arrived in Iran attacked intelligently as Iran's air defenses were being crippled. That first wave of B-52s arrived from bases in the United States, conducting 30-plus hour round trips in the process to deliver AGM-158 JASSM missiles to targets throughout the country. This approach overcame the lack of stealth.
It looks like, remember that Concorde? It looks like Concorde.
In the B-52 itself. The AGM-158 is a stealthy cruise missile that could pass by Iran's air defenses undetected. Firing those missiles from a distance, perhaps even from outside of Iran's airspace, via bases in Iraq or friendly Gulf countries, allowed the US to hit hard with its aging bombers without risking them to Iran's air defenses.
Bro, look at that. Look at the wingspan. Oh my goodness.
The situation has changed with the latest strikes. As for Iran, it's feeling the pain from what the US is doing. Afterburner's mentions of America using B-52s to take out what's left of Iran's missile infrastructure demonstrate a clear tactic of play working. According to I-24 News, Israel is claiming that about 70% of Iran's missile launchers have been taken out of commission already, which has severely limited Iran's ability to strike back at the US or Israel. Iran has been able to salvage some...
That is a shot and a half, isn't it? We got the refuel going on with the American flag, man. That is a shot and a half.
Some of its damaged launchers, the outlet reports. They're being moved into underground facilities that are being targeted with bunker-busting bombs.
Damn.
So they're not much use. even if they're repaired. The Wall Street Journal adds that Iran's
That's what I was thinking. This was a B-52. That's just a stealth bomber, isn't it? But look how cool that is, though. That's alien tech, man. I don't care what anyone says. This is Roswell technology going on here. What even is that? Where is the engines on this? Is that them? These little things. These two things are powering this whole bloody thing. There's something going on with this, man. I don't know what it is. Something going on with this.
missile threat has been so thoroughly degraded that what was meant to be a saturation strategy has devolved into Iran taking risky potshots at its enemies with its limited launches. Iran's ballistic missile launches are down 90% compared to the first day of the war by March 6th.
Damn.
And it seems that Iran has been forced to focus on persistent small strikes ahead of the volume that it favors, all due to B-52s and the other airframes that have been crippling its missile network. So the US strategy here is simple. Keep hitting Iran's missiles hard, and persistence will degrade into non-existence. That's what we've seen with the most recent use of the B-52 in Iran.
Look at that,
Afterburner explains, noting that just 2 hours before he published his March 9th analysis, footage was released of America's bombers scoring direct hits on Iranian ballistic missile launches, along with the country's missile production facilities. Don't underestimate the importance of these secondary strikes. While the priority was always to take Iran's missile launches out of the game.
See if you see this thing flying above your head. So it's over. It's over. Just saying, man. Just wrap it up. Get the white flag out if you've got one, but it's probably going to not make much difference. But just run or do something.
I mean, they can see exactly where these targets are, Afterburner says of the B-52s. And they're pumping information from other fighters, MQ-9s, RQ-4 Global Hawks, pumping information to the B-52 in real time to show it where these targets are and what needs to be struck next. What this means is that America's B-52s can execute their strikes in waves. They hit hard, restock, and come back, and then hit hard again at a whole new raft of targets. And with a combat range that is in excess of 8,800 miles, the B-52 can essentially loiter in the skies as its pilot waits for the next piece of information.
What the hell is that?
The next target comes in, a button is pressed, and a precision bomb gets sent flying in the direction of whatever needs to be hit.
Why does this... Is this real? Why does it look so disproportionate, man? Why does it... Look at this wing, look at this one. I know it's a thing of perspective, right? But I don't know, man. This looks like a submarine and a plane put together. Something does not look right with what is going on here.
It's an extremely effective approach, and we'll tell you why in just a moment. But before we get to that, this is The Military Show. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the perfect time to hit the button so you never miss the latest Iran war news. According to Afterburner, this approach, which had followed on from the initial wave of B-52 strikes, has led to America's aging bomber striking 200 targets in the 72 hours leading up to March 9th.
Wait, how
and
many?
Each of these 200 target strikes has led to America's aging bomber striking 200 targets in the 72 hours leading up to March 9th.
200
and each
targets?
of these strikes takes another slice out of Iran's missile power. When the B-52 hits, Iran loses a launcher, or it loses a missile stockpile, or one of the tunnels that it uses to transport missiles around its underground bases. And with each of these losses, Iran also loses the ability to conduct attacks against Israel, US bases, or the Gulf neighbors who are directly or indirectly supporting the American war effort. What the US is doing here is turning Iran into a country that has a missile-focused military doctrine, but no missiles to follow it through. It's doing all of this with a bomber that is well over 60 years old. But don't let the age fool you. The B-52 is far from a creaking airframe that the US is deploying because it has nothing better in its arsenal.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I'm assuming that, obviously it is an old aircraft, but I'm assuming it gets updates done to it. Not updates, but like upgrades. Updates. Maybe it gets updates done too, and to the software inside, all the technology. But like, physically, it must get well maintained, right?
This is the same bomber that the US Air Force points out delivered about 40% of all weapons that coalition forces dropped during Operation Desert Storm. And what's happening in Iran right now is proof that the
Man, these wings are so wide. They got their own wheel.
B-52 is still the deliverer of immense amounts of firepower that it always has been. Sure, it's not a stealth bomber like B-2 that the US used in its initial strikes, but the B-52 can still reach speeds of Mach 0.84 or around 650 miles per hour, and it carries around 70,000 pounds of weapons, which can include bombs, missiles, and even mines. And it's this payload capacity that is the entire point. Unlike a fighter jet, which can unload a handful of missiles and perhaps a few bombs, the B-52 can rattle off dozens of precision bombs in a single attack, often taking out multiple targets per sortie before it needs to be reloaded with new bombs. As the Iran war goes on, we're also seeing the role that the B-52 plays start to evolve. We mentioned
this may be a stupid question, right? But I'm going to ask anyway, because this is what we do. We ask questions. What is this made of? Why does it look like a matte? You know what I mean? It doesn't look like it's made of your classic aluminium or whatever they're made of. Normal plain materials. What is this made of?
The role that the B-52 plays start to evolve. We mentioned earlier, the first B-52s the US used fired standoff weapons, likely from the territory of friendly countries. But as more of Iran's air defense network has collapsed, a change in approach has started. Afterburner explains more, stating, "These B-52s can roll in, release their cruise missiles from a standoff distance, and then just continue flying in. With air superiority established in Iran, the B-52s can follow up their initial wave of attacks with strikes from inside Iran itself.
Jeez.
It's likely that the bombers are firing Joint Direct Attack Munitions, or JDAMs, loaded with 2,000-pound bombs for this purpose. And with a 70,000-pound payload, the B-52 can bring 35 of these heavy-hitting bombs to a strike, which it can use to utterly devastate a target.
35
That's what we're
of
seeing
them?
throughout Iran right now. And thanks to another recent development, we're likely going to be seeing a lot more of it in the coming days.
Where do these things fly from, though? They're not flying the whole way over from America to Iran, are they?
Stick with us and we'll explain why. But before we get into that, Afterburner adds that what we're seeing now in Iran is the US executing on its own air superiority doctrine so well that it's shattered whatever strategy that Iran may have had in place before the first bombs dropped
Jesus,
in late
that
February.
thing is a monster, man.
America's B-52s are carrying out wave after wave of strikes, Afterburner points out, and they're neutralizing potential threats before they ever have the chance to become actual threats to the US, Israel, or the many Gulf nations that Iran is trying to target. Here, Afterburner explains, adding, "Suppress air defenses, first with stealth, create the silent corridors, and then bring in the heavies for that sustained pressure. The B-52 is among the heaviest of the heavies."
It's the big
Iran
dog.
is feeling all
Final boss.
70,000 pounds of its payload weight every single day. Now, we mentioned a recent development that is going to lead to a lot more of the B-52s wreaking havoc in
Massive.
Iran in the coming days.
That thing is massive.
That development is simple. The UK is now... That development
Sorry. Look at the size of this wheel.
is wreaking havoc in Iran in the coming days.
Look at the size of this wheel compared to this car.
That development is simple. The UK is now allowing the US to use its air bases. Specifically, RAF Fairfoot is in play, and it will likely be joined by the Diego Garcia base in the Indian Ocean.
So that's how we get over.
According to TWZ, 3 of America's B-52s have already arrived at the former base as of March 9th, having made the journey from Minot Air Force Base in North Dakota. And now that those bombers are there, Iran is set to discover what a truly sustained campaign is really all about. Why? Well, the simple answer is that the UK allowing the US to use its air bases significantly cuts down on travel time for America's B-52s. Before the UK allowed the US in, America's B-52s had to travel from the US to Iran. Sure, they could be stationed at bases nearby once they arrived, but that came with the risk of being targeted by Iranian missile strikes. But even without taking that into consideration, the B-52s had to fly over the Atlantic Ocean, then over Europe and parts of Asia.
It's a long way, innit?
Multiple air
Wouldn't it be quicker going the other way? I've always thought about this, man. Wouldn't it be quicker going, instead of coming across Europe, maybe around you? No? Probably not.
aerial refueling stops were needed to get the bombers to Iran and back. And even on the most basic level, longer flights create more opportunities for things to go wrong. With RAF Fairfoot in play, the flight time for a B-52 has been cut down drastically.
How long?
The defense industry explains more. It says that the distance between Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, which is where America's first fleet of B-52s flew from, and Iran is about 11,000 kilometers,
Damn.
or around 6,835 miles. That's getting pretty close to the B-52's range of 8,800 miles, and that's before you take the return journey into account. However, the distance between RAF Fairfoot is just 4,500 kilometers, or 2,700.
How much does it cost to refuel this thing, man? I would love. I hope he probably won't, but I'd like to know.
miles. That's far less than half the distance, and it creates the opportunity for American bombers to fly into Iran, unleash their payloads, and then return to a base that is well out of range of Iranian retaliation, but still comfortably within the range of the B-52. Even with a round trip, the B-52 still has over 3,000 miles left of flying in the tank when deploying from RAF Fairfoot. The US is also very familiar with this particular base. As the BBC reports, the US Air Force's 501st Combat Support Wing has worked on the base for a long time, and it provides support for America's bomber fleet. B-1s, B-2s, and
What is this?
B-52s have
B1?
all been stationed at the base before. No infrastructure
B2?
needs to be built because it's already in place. The US has teams that can maintain its bombers and keep them flying. And the odds are that we're also going to start to see American cargo planes heading into RAF Fairfoot with ammunition to keep the B-52s and other bombers loaded. And adding to all of this is the simple fact about the American bombers traveling a much shorter distance to Iran that we haven't covered yet. The shorter the distance, the more frequent the attacks can become. For Iran, there is no end in sight to the havoc that the B-52 is wreaking on its missile infrastructure. If anything, the UK bases coming into play mean that the already devastating...
When did that happen? When did the UK finally stop saying no and then be like, hey, come on in, it's fine now? That was Kieran Starmer on it. That guy's a fucking idiot, man. I'm just saying. The guy is a bloody idiot. Not for allowing them in, but just in general. Just in general, you know, he's just a fucking idiot. He always has been an idiot. Always will be an idiot. Don't like him. Didn't run a bath. Never mind a country. Yes, I want to know how much it is to refuel these things. I bet he is so much.
Strikes we've seen so far are going to escalate in intensity and frequency. Trump has also made it very clear that the US is going to keep hitting Iran until the job is done, with that job seemingly being the complete collapse of the country's regime. When asked on March 9th when he thought the war would end, Trump said that the US had already eliminated 2 levels of Iran's leadership, adding, "Most people have never even heard about the leaders that they're talking about. We're achieving major strides toward completing our military objective." Major strides towards completion doesn't mean that the war is done yet. Iran's decision to appoint Ali Khamenei's son, Mojtaba Khamenei, as its new supreme leader isn't helping things for Iran.
This is what I said in the last video, man. They've just replaced the other guy with someone similar. So surely we're just back to square one, though. No?
As Al Jazeera reports, Trump has already slammed that appointment and rather unsubtly suggested that it won't last.
Oh dear.
In other words, Iran replacing one Khamenei with another isn't going to cut it. "I'm not going through this to end up with another Khamenei. I want to be involved in the selection," Trump said. Iran seems to think differently, so it's hard to see how it can negotiate for any sort of ceasefire as long as it's making leadership appointments that directly contradict what Trump wants for Iran. As long as those types of appointments are happening, the B-52s will keep flying.
What does Trump want for Iran, guys? What is the actual goal? Is it to do with oil? You're my teachers, guys, remember. So you get in those comments, you get those little fingers typing, man. You tell me all about it.
With every sortie will come more heavy shots against the asymmetric warfare strategy that Iran intended to employ. More missile bases and launch sites will blow up. The same goes for storage facilities and missile building infrastructure. What this means for the new Khamenei is that he has essentially been appointed as the supreme leader of a country that has watched itself collapse in less than 2 weeks, at least from a military standpoint. And as Mojtaba Khamenei tries to plan for whatever he believes is going to come next,
Bro, what are these
he has
roads?
to deal with what we mentioned earlier.
Well, someone use a
America's
fucking indicator.
B-52s are closer than ever now. They're stationed at RAF Barefoot. And that means that the new Khamenei might be better served removing himself from the leadership picture before the US takes matters into its own hands with strikes that just don't target missile facilities.
Jesus,
After all, it's not just B-52s and other bombers being closer than ever that Iran's new regime
I absolutely love these carrier ships, man. I don't know what it is. They just look so aesthetically pleasing.
has to worry about. Aircraft carriers are still in and around the Persian Gulf region, and they're stocked with fighter jets that are causing just as much damage in Iran as America's bombers. Some will tell.
Kind of looks like a spider, doesn't it? You know what I mean? Except the spider can't fly. Well, some can. Can they? I don't know. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that was a little bit of information on the B-52s doing their thing over there in Iran. They are an absolute colossal vehicle. Absolute beast of the sky, man. Good God. But yeah. But guys, whenever I ask about, tell me what is going on in the updates, I did say before, I don't really watch the news or TV because you never really know what to trust. You know what I mean? You see what the government wants you to see. So I rely on my news coming from you guys because you guys are probably better informed than they are. Or what at least they're telling us. So if you guys want to give me any updates as to what is going on, go in the comments, man. Do your thing, do the types. And yeah, I read 99% of the comments. But before I go, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you one more time to like the video if you enjoyed it. Maybe subscribe so you see more of my face. Don't know why you'd want that. But if that's something that you want, you know what to do. Have yourself a good day, ladies and gentlemen. Goodbye.